G'day everyone, welcome back. It is now 2025. Yeah, let's see how quickly this year goes. I'm tipping pretty quick. Hopefully you all had a good Christmas, New Year's, and if you got any time off, that was great. Hopefully you enjoyed it and everyone was safe, and yeah, we're all here for another year. So, this year, not really going to go through a whole lot because, I don't know, I got big plans, but they don't always come through. But there's a few big things that will happen this year. Starting with getting this car completely finished, engineered, registered, back on the road properly. That is obviously what this episode is going to all be about. I couldn't tell you exactly what sort of order I'm going to do it in, but I want this episode to effectively go from where the Patrol is now, which is exactly where it left off last year. I haven't done a thing to it over the break. It basically sat there. I didn't want to drive it because, you know, nothing's all checked out or engineered, so it just sat there. But we're back on it, and like I said, this episode is going to go from where it is now to hopefully registered license plates on the road, and we can go for a proper drive. I am stinging to get this thing out in the bush, but you know, we got an order of operations. So yeah, if you haven't watched any of the previous episodes on this Patrol, it's undergone a fair bit of work since I've owned it, and I would highly advise checking them out. I guess I'll go through a really brief, overview of what I've done, what's still left to do for engineering, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, let me, I don't know, might start at the front and work our way back. So let's go. All right. So I promise there won't be too much talking in this one. I've got a lot of work to do, and I'm not going to explain it all. I'm just going to do it. But like I said, a brief overview of the vehicle, given that it's the start of the year, and this is sort of another whole round of mods that have got to get finished. 93 GQ Nissan Patrol is a Rex Hunt Special Edition. Basically, it come out with a 3-litre 6-cylinder petrol engine. I got it running, but anyway, that's a whole nother series of events. Like I said, if you want to know in depth, it's all on the channel, previous episodes on this car. Basically, that come out. Now, what's in there now is a fully rebuilt by me 6.5 litre GM diesel and turboed. So it's got a Garrett turbo on the back of it, intercooled and everything. Obviously, I did the conversion on that. It's mated to the factory GQ TD42 5-speed, so it's a 5-speed manual. So that's the engine. It runs. I've had it running before I did the chop at the back. I've put about 2,000 Ks on this car, which is not a lot, but anyway. The engine's good, no issue with the engine. A few little things we have to finish off for engineering, but as far as the mechanics go, the engine is running very good. Now, to do with the engineering side of things, the engine weight is heavier, so the engineer would like to see an upgrade to GU Patrol diffs, later model diffs, hence the diff. Now, again, it's in a previous episode, we stripped this right down, fully welded on slimline brace kit from Adventure Corp. This is going to get fully rebuilt and put in. There's a front auto locker going in it, and a few other bits and bobs, nothing flash. It's just a rebuild, auto locker, new parts, got brand new brake calipers to go on it, all new swivel hub seals, axle bearings, wheel bearings, just a full rebuild. That'll go under, and I also have a rear diff to go under as well. That essentially puts a higher axle capacity weight under the car, and that allows me to run the heavier engine. That was the engineer's suggestion. I don't mind it. I was sort of going to do it anyway because it's got much stronger CVs, and with the torque this thing puts out, it's going to be handy. Right, moving back, it's all pretty much standard till you get to there. So that was sort of the last sequence of mods that appeared on the channel. I did a dual cab chop, and we're all finished in there. Again, if you want more information, I've got the whole thing detailed on the channel already. And if I could get this seat forward with one hand, which I cannot, stand by. So dual batteries behind the seat. There's no battery in the engine bay, again to try and move weight backwards a bit. Dual batteries in there. Yeah. we did the stacks, so they're 5-inch. They're actually Kenworth stacks. I found a Kenworth part number on the bottom of them. So anyway, 5-inch stacks. It's running a full 4-inch exhaust, so 4-inch dump pipe all the way through a muffler, and then up and runs through the twin 5-inch stacks. And we finished the tray. So that was pretty much, I mean, there's a whole lot of other little bits and pieces, but that's broad overview. We resprayed the roof, back wall obviously because it's new, and pillars. It won't happen for engineering at all, but eventually I will be respraying the whole car. That's brand new factory colour. That's faded 1993 colour. They're at the same paint code. It's just, yeah, I think over the years this one's just faded a bit. Yeah, so that's where we are. Now, like I said, for engineering, I need to change the diff, which is fine, we've got them. I need to change the steering box to match the front diff, which I've got. We need to, so that's front and rear, so they've got to be rebuilt and swapped out. What else do I need to do? Under here, I need to plumb, at the moment, the crankcase vent is just coming out of that breather there. It needs to go into the intake for, not EGR, just crankcase emissions, PCV. Positive crankcase ventilation needs to go back into the intake. I need to plumb, over this side, so I need to wire and plumb in my windscreen washers, and then I need to do something with the bonnet. Now, I'll put the bonnet down in a minute, you can see it, but essentially I cut a dirty big hole on the bonnet to fit the intercooler, and it's rough, and I did that really quickly last minute, just so I could close the bonnet, because I had a line up with a dyno to get this on the dyno to run it, and I needed a bonnet to do it. So I just basically hacked up the bonnet. The bonnet's in crappy condition anyway. It was all dented and smashed when I got it, and then yeah, like I said, I just hacked a scoop into it. But I'm hoping I can get it engineered with this. The trouble being that I've cut out a lot of the bracing. And something else I wasn't aware of either is there's these little indents. So these are fold initiation creases apparently. According to the engineer said that basically when you smack into something from the front, instead of the whole bonnet shunting backwards into the window, it initiates a fold line there. So the bonnet will concertina up instead of going through the window and smashing in the head. I guess it makes sense. But anyway, I need to see if there is any way I can get this engineerable, and then I can worry about another bonnet later. Yeah, because I'm going to run out of time with this. I also need to remake a power steering line. I need to get one made, custom made, because it's popped off on me and it's just not ideal. But that's where we are. So, I mean, there's not really anything left to do except stop talking. And, it's a pain in the butt to do that. Yeah, so there's not really anything left to do except learn how to lean against the car, except stop talking, start working. So that's what we're going to do. Lift it up, drop the diffs, strip the centers, swap them out. I need to keep my gear ratios too. The diffs that I brought, they're 4.1s. I'm running 3.9s. I need to keep 3.9s. So we've got a bit of work to do. We got a lot of work to do actually. So yeah, let's do it. Alright, axle's out. Some nitwit, if you're wondering why it's hanging off the forklift, I thought, brilliant idea, unbolt it off the radius arms, no worries, roll it out. That all worked good, except that I forgot that I have to pull the centre out. And in order to get the centre out, you've got to get the axles out. So, thought I had to hang it from the forklift, tyres off, freewheeling hubs off, brakes off, and then both CV shafts can come out, and then we can just spin it on its back, pull the centre out, and that's pretty much everything I can use off this diff. I will use the brake lines actually because they're still in good condition and they'll transfer over. The other ones were completely shot. In the panhard, because I have an early GU diff, the panhard will work. If you use a later model GU diff, 04 and later, the panhard mount is in a different spot. So yeah, I can use this one, which is good because it's actually a heavy duty adjustable panhard, so that'll go back in. Something I didn't notice before is I actually have caster corrected bushes, which is both good and bad. It's good because, well, I've got caster correction, but it's bad because I just don't like them. They tend to flog out quicker, and they're a little bit of a cop out. When you lift the car, diff drops down, caster end up, as it comes down, caster rolls forward, you end up with less cast than you had. You still lay back, but it becomes less. In my opinion, the best way to correct that is actually drop boxes at the back. So they take this mushroom bush here, they make another mount point lower down, and it actually drops the radius arms because it actually levels your radius arms back out and gets your geometry back to somewhere near it was from factory. So yeah, in my opinion, that's the best way to correct caster out of alignment because of lift. As you saw on the bench, a little bit of mucking around, but you know, it is what it is. You're pulling the center. It looks pretty good. There's definitely some wear on it. It's sort of very hard to show up on camera, but there's a lot of wear. It hasn't sort of gone through case hardening or anything like that. Well, actually, I wouldn't go writing a check for that. But it's a front diff. If the rear diff looked like that, yeah, I'd probably think about getting different ring and pinions. When it was in four-wheel drive, I can't say I ever really noticed any noise coming from it. There's no chips, there's no, nothing missing. The backlash is actually pretty good. Well, I suppose I could probably set it up. I'll have to set it up anyway when I go to put it back together. Yeah, I'll check what the carrier bearings are like. If they're crappy, I'll replace them. There is, see if I can get it. Hang on. There's a little bit of noise. I know you're looking at the bench. I was trying to put the microphone near it. There is a little bit of noise coming from the pinion bearing. So I'll see what it's like. I've got to pull the carrier out, obviously, so I can put the center in. I put the auto locker in. So I'll pull that out and I'll spin the pinion, see what the pinion bearings are like. Feels like it's got pretty good preload. Now it's probably a touch light, but no, it's not bad. Preload's fine, acceptable. So we'll go through it. I'll have to get the other center, which is hiding down over there. We'll strip that, get the auto locker out, and then we'll strip that and get it in. Alright, so both of them disassembled. Not quite sure what happened at the time lapse. I went and had a bit of a look over it and I don't know, decided to stop halfway. Now, these are the two centers. This one here is the one that was in, this was the one that was in the diff center that was under the Patrol. That was the one we pulled out. Now, this is actually a GU center. Best as I can figure. Patrols seem to have two different style front carriers. I'm not up on exactly why one appears in the other. I don't know. That in theory should be GU as well, because it come out of the diff that we brought, not the one that was in the car, the diff that we brought, which is definitely a GU diff. So someone swapped that in at some point, or I don't know. I've pulled multiple diffs apart, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason as to what one is what style. Both front diffs in patrols are always open center. They'd never come out with an LSD or a locker in the front, not factory anyway. But yeah, there's two different styles. Now, if you watch the video of when I stripped that diff apart, I'm pointing in the background because that's where the other, the one we rebuilt is. It had, like I said, this center in it, and this had the locker in it. Now, I'll go through the parts of the auto locker, but if you did watch that video, you'll know that I pulled out some broken bits out of the bottom of the oil, or out of the oil when I drained it. Broken bits, couple of springs and things that were hanging around in there. Now, I know that they are parts of the locker. I don't quite know why they broke. I'm going to show you what I think happened, and then we're going to install this center, this locker, into this carrier, which again is the one with my 3.9 ring gear and the one that come out of the diff under the patrol. So this is still a GU center. Again, I don't know enough about it to know why there's different ones. There's also two, or technically four different centers for the back as well. There's a small LSD, which I'll show you when I pull the rear diff apart, because it's got a small LSD. The one that's in the back of the truck at the moment is a large style LSD for the H233 back end, and then you have a H260 back end, which is a physically bigger unit, if I've got that the right way around. The 33 might be the bigger. Again, not an expert. Anyway, two different style back ends, and then you do have a factory locker for the rear. Yeah, it was in the GQ and was in the GU, so you can actually get a factory rear locker for these. Mixed reports, some say they're okay, some say they're really not that good. I've never had one, so I've got no opinion on it. Anyway, I digress. Let me bring you in a bit closer and I'll show you what the go is with the locker, and we're going to install it in here, and then I'm going to check the clearances to see if that's what caused the failure. So let me bring you in, give you a breakdown. Okie dokie, I'm going to do my best here. You'll have to bear with me. Now, when I pulled it apart, there was these components in the oil. What they are springs and pins, get in there, springs and pins that sit in between of these two plates, or these two centers, and they hold tension outwards. And holding tension outwards holds preload on the engagement dogs, which is what the axles slide into. So they preload the dog teeth into staying there, and effectively it allows a certain amount of force, if you will, unless the wheel, or one wheel, running at a differential speed, a different speed, try and explain this right, allows it to ramp up, which actually pushes this section moves. This one can only rotate, it doesn't actually move in and out. It'll allow it to ramp, compress the spring, and then the center can ratchet, or sorry, the wheel can ratchet over the center. Now, like I said, the spring and pin is purely just to hold preload to keep them together. If that spring and pin wasn't there, then it would technically be an open diff, I guess. Yeah, it'd be almost no drive, because neither wheel would have any load on it until such times as you put your foot on the throttle. Now, what actually causes these to lock, like hard lock, they're technically always locked because of those springs. What causes them to lock is the drive through this pin. Now, this pin is attached to the carrier. It's easier to show you on this one. It goes through there, it's attached to the carrier. When drive is transmitted through the crown wheel, through the drive pin, and through the carrier, it forces this pin around, and the wheel has resistance. It doesn't want to turn because it's on the ground and we're trying to drive forward. What happens is the wheel wants to ratchet, so it wants to go against the spring, wants to ratchet around. This drive pin, being driven by the whole differential carrier mechanism, rides up on the ramps. Now, it physically rides itself out, up on the ramps, exaggerated obviously, rides itself up on the ramps and forces this portion into this portion. Now this can't move, it's sitting on a thrust bearing up against the side of the carrier assembly, can't move, and that physically locks it. Now it does it both sides at once. Sits in there like that, and then as it ramps, as we transmit extra drive, we put more throttle on and more load, it wants to spin that pin and it ramps out, forcing these two out, forcing them to hard engage and lock into the dogs. The only way these become unlocked, and it's a little bit of a, you got to sort of drive around it, the only way these become unlocked is if you back off the throttle. Now, backing off the throttle will take the preload off the pin, essentially allowing it to freewheel, and these can now, these sections can now come in and out against the spring and allow that to click, click, click freewheel. As soon as you put your foot on the throttle again, you get the same thing happens. It drives, the pin moves, spreads it back out. Anyway, see if you followed that. If you didn't follow it, that's fine. It's probably because I explained it poorly. Now, these are what the pins should look like, these 4 pins here. I remade them. I just jumped on the lathe and spun some new ones up, and we'll put them in. They're same dimensions. Luckily there was enough. I had a base and the top, so the tops have got a little sort of nib in them there to help locate the spring. There's enough there I could measure it and find out what the proper length is. Now, they're supposed to go like that. Pins go in the holes, springs go in the slots. Get in the slot. Springs go in the slots. All 4 of them. If you don't, oh, don't drop them on the ground. That'd be bad. Luckily, I was actually able to recover all the springs. Get in there. Thank you. Right, now, there's 2 more in there, obviously. And they sit like that. So, springy, springy, no worries. What I found when I pulled the locker apart is that all 4 of these pins were sheared flat with the top, like that, completely sheared off, straight up. Now, the only way that that can happen is if the center is allowed to move too far apart. Get the springs out of there. We have to do some clever editing to make this actually make sense, I think. Now, if we can see, hopefully it'll focus and we'll be able to see. Down in there, that's the sheared pin. Now the only way that pin's going to shear is if they move too far apart from one another and it moves past the hole. Sheared, gone. It shouldn't be able to do that. It shouldn't be able to move that far because the pin should stop it. So it can only move so far before it ramps and takes up and locks. I don't know why it's failed. So what we're going to do is assemble it into this housing, into this carrier, and we're going to check the clearance. Now there is actually a specific clearance when it's all fully assembled. They'll be apart like that. There is actually a specific clearance to see how far that gap is. So we're going to do that first. See, I have an idea of how to fix it if in fact it is broken. It may just be that it was assembled and the clearances were too loose, and that allowed the 2 halves to spin further than they should have been able to, hence wiping past and shearing the pin. I don't want that to happen again. Anyway, because there's not, I thought maybe there'd be excessive wear on the ramps allowing it to move too far. There's not, and these are like proper hard, as in redonkulously hard. I don't know what they are on the Rockwell scale, but they're up there, and so are the pins. So there's no excessive wear. It's just, I don't know, I think maybe the clearances are too great. Let me dummy assemble it with everything and the new pins, and we'll see what we can see. Alright, so the gap we're trying to measure is down in there. It's a little hard to see, but down in there there's a gap between the 2 plates, and the tolerance is 3.68 millimeters to 4.19, so what, 3.65 to 4.2, and that's at 3.8, and it fits in there beautiful. So we're sitting at probably about, if I had to have a guess, if I had to round it, I'd say we're probably sitting about 3.85, which means we are pretty much bang on in the middle of the tolerance, or slightly on the tighter side. Now, that doesn't make sense to me. Why did it shear? I guess the only way to really check it would be to put it into that hemisphere, or that carrier, and see what the tolerance is in that. Curiouser and curiouser. Alright, now things are starting to get a little bit odd. It is exactly the same clearance. I only put 2 lots of springs in because I didn't really need it for what I'm doing. I'm only checking. But yeah, same clearance. Probably maybe like a fraction looser, but certainly not anywhere near top tolerance. So, all back together. Lockers in there, obviously. It took me a bit longer, a bit of mucking around. I did actually end up replacing the carrier bearings. The old ones, they hadn't come through case hardening, but yeah, there's a fair bit of wear on them. So I thought, you know what, now's the time. Pinion bearings still felt good, so I'm running them. Yeah, we're all set up. I went through and I just patterned it just to see, and yeah, pretty much exactly what you want to see on driven, and overruns fine. So yeah, it's good, ready to rock and roll. And we're sitting about 7th hour backlash, which almost seems a little tight to me, but that's what the book wants. It wants between 6 and 8, so yeah, that's where we are. So we're going to flip this bad boy over, clear the crap out of the way, flip that over, get the baiting surface cleaned, wipe it all down, and then we're going to slap it in. Center's in, and I think as far as order of operations go, I'm going to put the housing up, or bring the car down and basically put the housing back into the radius arms with shocks and springs, so it'll all sort of sit where it's supposed to. That little setup I've got there was, you know, it was handy when I was welding and everything, but it's pretty bloody sketchy, to be honest. I've dropped it off it a few times, and just the extra weight of putting the center in there has made it even worse. So it's going to make it nice and easy to rebuild all the swivel hubs and everything. If it's hanging up and in my face, I don't have to bend over and hurt my back, or, you know, be a bit of a pain in the butt trying to do it on the ground. So yeah, but before that goes up, we've got to get the steering box out of there. So that's a GQ box. Obviously it's in a GQ, and number 1, it's leaking, and number 2, I've got a GU box to go in. Biggest difference for me is it's got a bigger pitman arm, or sorry, a different pitman arm. So there are a different taper in there that will allow me to run just a straight GU steering arm. I don't have to get a hybrid one that's got a GU on one side and GQ on one side and GU on the other. If I was to do that, you can do it, but that's fine. And also these are apparently stronger. I don't know, they look, yeah, they do look a fair bit beefier, if I'm being honest. But anyway, apparently they're stronger, and I have heard rumours that they do give you slightly more turning radius. So I don't know, we'll see. I've sort of had mixed reports for that. Some people say, yep, that you get a better turning radius. They got a slightly longer lock-to-lock throw. So, I mean, that'd be nice, because this thing's not exactly a little bubble car to try and turn around. But either way, like I said, the main reason I'm doing it is so that I can use just a standard GU steering arm. And, I mean, the strength is an added bonus. So yeah, drop the power steering fluid and get that sucker out of there while I got plenty of room in here, and then we can swap it over. And they are not light either. It's going to be a little bit crappy, but we'll get it. There we go, just a little side-by-side shot of the two before I put it on. You can definitely see, like, it's a lot. So this is the bigger one, obviously, and it's a lot beefier in and around that section. Certainly in and around the input area, it's a lot more stout. And it's actually got, these have got a bigger drop on the pitman arm, which puts your steering geometry back in a much better alignment position when you lift it. So really, there's no negatives. Well, you know, we say that and then I put it on there and it's blown and I've got to rebuild it anyway, but let's cross that bridge when we come to it, eh? Well, time has well and truly got the better of me. As you can see, there's a few things changed already. I got to a point where I just had to put the camera down and get some work done. The engineer's date was just getting closer. I ran out of time, which is pretty standard for me. The car is not done, not to a fully finished standpoint. I mean, obviously there's things that are different colours. I rang the engineer and said, would you still like to see it? And he basically said yes, you know, we can go over the dual cab job, the engine conversion, all that, and then all the minor details. He'll give me a list and then I'll fix that and basically come back for another inspection, but at least it gets the ball rolling. So I'll give you a quick walkthrough of what it is that I've done since the last shot. It's been a couple of weekends, I can't even remember what I did in the last shot. Anyway, I'll give you a quick walkthrough, show you what we've got, what I know is still left to go, and then we're to the point where I've got to load it on the trailer and, you know, start the process. It's got to start somewhere. So, alright, well, I guess to start with, the bonnet. If you remember, the other bonnet had a really rough, ugly scoop on it, and yeah, got a bonnet, paid 50 bucks for the bonnet, so that was a bonus. It's actually in really good nick, there's no rust in it. There's a little dent in the front, which is pretty common. And then the scoop, it's just a fiberglass scoop. It's nothing overly special, but it's sleek, it covers the intercooler, and it just looks a hell of a lot better than what the other one did. So obviously once we get through engineering, the fact it's a different colour he won't care about. Once the truck gets through engineering, we're going to go and we're going to do another round of painting anyway. Yeah, so bonnet and scoop. The diffs, the front diffs all back together, new brakes. I did end up just machining the rotors. I didn't buy new ones, they're still within spec. You know, they'll run, but brand new calipers, brand new pads, brand new bearings throughout, and it's got the front locker in it now, so it'll be actually pretty cool. I've never had a four-wheel drive with a front locker. I've used the auto lockers in the back of road cars before, but I've never had one in the front of a four-wheel drive, so yeah, it's cool to have the nice beefy GU diffs and also a front locker. So yeah, the rear diff is all in, so it's nothing special to see. It was just pull the center out, drop it, my center back in to keep my ratios, and then GU axles back in. It's actually got the GQ calipers on it. Just long story, but anyway, basically it's got GQ calipers back on it with brand new pads. And again, I machined the rotors, they're still within spec, so I'm not worried about it. I did fix my power steering line, so I just got a whole new one made essentially, and the GU steering box is in. It's also got the brand new GU steering rod in, so tie rod, not tie rod, yeah, tie rod, not the drag link. So that's pretty much it up front. As far as what hasn't been done, I know I don't have the PCV hooked up, the positive crankcase vent. It'll be one of those things. I know he'll pick it. I don't have time. And there's a few other little things. I don't think I haven't got a chance to make any battery mounts, hold down clamps or anything. But like I said, we need to start the process and find out what he is and isn't happy with. we can go from there. So yeah, I will get this thing loaded up on the trailer, and essentially, like I said, this episode will have all the conclusions of what the engineer is going to tell me when he goes through it all. So I will, the next shot you'll see, probably a little bit more talking, because I'll run you through. I'll take the camera. I don't know if he'll be happy with me filming or not. If he's happy with me filming, then yeah, I'll film a bit, but that's entirely up to him. If he's not, then I'll just essentially jump back on and let you know how the process went. So yeah, all right. Well, we'll see you in the next frame. All right, well, it's been a few days since the engineer, and I thought I would basically go through the list. Now, I will say right from the bat, really helpful. You know, wasn't out there to pick the car apart. There's nothing there that isn't fixable. You know, the car's not a write-off. You know, basically chuck it in the bin and start again, anything like that. So it was really good. Definitely knows his stuff. Now, having said that, there is a list. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's a good list. So I'll run you through what we've got to do. And some of it's little stuff, some of it's not so little stuff. But by and large, there's nothing there we can't tackle. I will, just before we get into this, apologise for the bit of the disconnect. I was just editing the first portion of this video, and yeah, I think it got to the point where I just had to put the tools down and get into it. So yeah, it sort of went through a whole heap of diff stuff and then went to the car's done. So I do apologise for that, but really the only thing you missed was swapping the carrier out in the rear diff and me cutting up the bonnet and putting it back together. As far as all the other list of things that I had to do before engineering, I didn't get to it. I did not get the car done in time. And that was fine. That was not a problem. It was more, yeah, I rang him, and I think, like I explained previously, I rang him and he said, no, I still want to see the car anyway, because at least then we can get some progress, you know, report basically, and I can know where I stand and where I'm going. So that was the idea. But like I said, you didn't miss out on anything. I didn't get the wipers fitted up. I didn't make any battery covers, battery hold downs. I didn't do the PCV valve. There was a lot of stuff I didn't do. Basically, it was diffs and bonnet, put it on the trailer and take it. So anyway, there we are. But I promise I'll try and do better next time, because that was pretty poor, even by my standards. That was a pretty poor flow onto the video. All right, now as far as the engine conversion goes, there was nothing there that he was unhappy with. The engine mounts were fine. The engine mount brackets that I welded to the chassis, completely fine. The exhaust itself, no issue with. The stacks, no issue with. They all comply. They face the right way. They're not too tall. The noise and the soot, we'll get to that, because that was an issue. But anyway, we'll get to that. So as far as the physical engine conversion goes, no problems. The chop, the rear dual cab chop we did, as far as the physical build of the back wall, materials used, construction, you know, the rear engine mounts, the rear cab mounts we did, the tray mounts, the tray, no issues. He's happy with all that. The child restraint points is all good. The fact I used an actual rear glass out of a vehicle, it was out of a Land Cruiser, was good, because it means that it's an actual ADR compliant piece of glass. It's not just some pane of glass that I picked up off the side of the road. So that was really good. So that's probably a good tip. If you're going to do it, make sure you use a certified piece of glass, as funny as that sounds, but anyway. Right, so yeah, dual cab chop, no real issues, happy with it. Let's run through the parts that he either wasn't happy with or that I just need to put more work into. Now, the first one off the top of the list is on a 6.5 diesel. The actual engine number is all the way at the back of the driver's side head, or behind the head on the side of the block. Pain in the butt to get to, and especially because I've done the exhaust manifolds the way I have, real pain in the butt to get to. Couldn't see it, so I'm going to need to get a borescope or something down there and take a photo of it. Hindsight 2020, I should have just taken a good clear photo of the engine number when the engine was out. I didn't. Here we are. So, engine number. Now, something I didn't realise is, so those rear tail lights I put on, now, what he was saying was most factory rear tail lights will have internal reflectors built into them. The LED ones that you buy don't. You shine a light on them in the dark. If you shine a light on them, they don't reflect. That's actually illegal. The fact they don't reflect is not illegal, but the back of the car needs to have red reflectors on it of some description. So basically just two little red trailer reflectors on the back either side of the tail lights, hunky-dory. That is actually a genuine, you need to have this. So anyway, number plate light. Again, something I wasn't aware of is that the number plate light, if you go back and watch where I mounted it, was on the side of the number plate. So I didn't mount it, above the plate, it was on the side. Most number plate lights, including the one I've got, are designed to be mounted from the top and then the beam spreads across the plate. Well, when you put them on the side, the beam spreads out and the second half of the plate doesn't get any light. So to rectify that, you either need to mount it to the top or just put another light on the other side. So that's fine, that's something I have to do, light on the other side. Just things to keep in mind. Right. So he pulled me up on the batteries in the back. Not the fact they're in the back, that's fine. But like I knew I had to do, there's no hold downs on them, and there's no battery terminal covers or anything like that. So need to do something about that. His suggestion was to obviously put a hold down, but then make a full shield over them, like an actual enclosure that goes over the batteries, which is probably what I'll end up doing. I think that's a good idea. It means nothing can fall down there and get shorted and whatever. As well as terminal covers. So I knew I'd get picked up on it, so that's fine. Because I fitted the GU diffs, the GU front brakes are twin piston calipers. They're replacing the single piston calipers, and he said you have to fit the GU master cylinder in order to complement those brakes. If you don't do it, the brakes won't pass the brake test. Fair enough. So I was umming and ahhing about that, but he said, no, you've got to do it. So, okay. My rear proportioning valve, I knew about it, and this is where it all comes down to, I just didn't get the car done. The rear proportioning valve is not in the right orientation because the car's been lifted so much. The arm that leads to it, which is a load sensing valve, is now out of alignment. I need to fix that. Okay, fair enough. Because I've fitted the GU diffs front and rear, it needs a Playtronic brake test, which essentially there's 4 pads in the ground. They drive the car on it and hit the brake, and those 4 pads sense how much wheel is contributing, what percentage of braking force. They need that to confirm the brake proportioning valve, basically. Because if it's set wrong, you'll have either too much bias to the front or too much bias to the rear, and it actually has to be in a spec, and it has to be certified and printed out to say that yes, it is. So anyway, I need a weighbridge ticket. Again, I knew that, it's just something I didn't have. Now he still thinks that I don't have enough sump clearance. So with that diff brace, even though I went to all the effort of putting the lowest profile diff brace I could, looking at it, and yeah, now it's all there and I can see it. He is right, it just makes more work for me. Full hardcore compression, if the nose of the car drops onto the bump stops, the front diff's going to hit the sump. So I need to, he said 2 options: you can either modify the sump to give it clearance, not doing that, or you just put bump stop extensions in. I didn't really want to do that because it does limit up travel. I would rather limit up travel than up travel into me sump. So that's what we'll do. Bonnet bracing. Again, one of those things I just didn't get done. I cut the hole in the bonnet, I chucked that white scoop on, and I knew I would have to do something. Now, I'm actually pretty glad that I didn't do the bracing, because in all honesty, I would have done it wrong. I did make mention of the fold initiation lines, or fold initiation creases that are in there, and he basically pointed them out, and I'll go through it all when we start fixing all of these problems. Effectively, what I had in my mind to brace it would have actually been wrong. It wouldn't have worked. It would have stiffened the bonnet up, but it would have hindered the fold initiation lines and then I would have to start it again. So anyway, like I said, we'll go through that more when we get into the fixing the problems video. Where are we? Okay, so the car has a 2-inch suspension lift and it has a 1-inch body lift. That puts me at 3 inches. The rule in New South Wales is that if it's 2 inches and under worth of vehicle suspension lift, inclusive of body lift, if it's 2 inches and under, then you don't need to get it engineered. 2 inches and over, you do. So that's fine. I'm at 3 inches. 3 inches is engineerable. New South Wales, he said the maximum you can lift is actually 6 inches, but that includes tyres. Now, tyres in New South Wales, I did watch a video by Tyler Thompson, and he got his 80 series engineered with 35-inch tyres. The engineer I'm going through, he said that that's not possible. Either way, don't know, not an engineer. The biggest tyre that my engineer is telling me I could do is a 34-inch tyre. It falls into the 7% larger than the factory tyre size, and that's fine. The kicker is I have to have that tyre physically fitted to the vehicle when I go for engineering sign-off. So I was hoping it could just be engineered for that size tyre, and I could worry about physically buying that size tyre later. You know, there's $1,000, $2,000 I don't have to spend right now, but no, because it needs photos and documentation done for engineering, physically have to be on the vehicle at the time of engineering. Anyway, that might be a no-brainer. I might have oversimplified that, but that's what it's got to be. Something I thought may be an issue, but I sort of didn't put too much into it, is my gauge pod. Now, I've got 3 pillar pod, the 3 gauge pillar pod inside the car, completely illegal. Not so much that they're there, but because when you're sitting in the driver's seat, it obstructs view of the road out the front windscreen by like that much. That much is too much. So I can't have anything that I can physically see or obstructs my view to the road through the front windscreen. So he said the stupidity of it is that if I was to put a gauge pod on there, I can hang it out the window, out the driver's side window, and that's fine. You wouldn't, obviously, but that's fine because it's not affecting your vision out the front. So anyway, I'm going to have to make somewhere else to put my 3 gauges because I am still running them. You know, the water temperature boost and EGT, very crucial gauges for any car, really, especially a turbo diesel. So I don't know, maybe leave a comment, and if you've got, you know, any good ideas of where to put 3 gauges nice and neat. I'm not against sitting them like above the heater or the air vents, somewhere up there, it'd be nice and neat, but I don't know, we'll see. It's future me's problem. Actually, all of this is future me's problem. Right. Here's the one that everybody wants, the noise test. So dB meter. Now, we went through it all and we were able to sort of work it, but I needed to be under 90 dB, 1 meter away, level with the stacks, and a meter out, or 45 and a meter out. Needed to be 90, and it was 95. Now, 5 dB up that end of the scale is a lot. It's a bit of an accumulative sort of exponential sort of scale, and yeah, 5 dB at 90 is a big difference. So I need to do something about that. I don't know. I think I was just being overly optimistic that maybe it might pass. It didn't, well and truly. And also I need to produce a drive-by noise limit, or drive-by noise test that I pass. It won't pass at the moment. He said if you don't pass the static noise test, there's no way the car's going to pass a drive-by. So the drive-by is you need to be at 50 kilometers an hour, and they set up cones. What do you write? Oh, I didn't say specifically. From memory, don't quote me. They set up cones that are, say, 50 meters apart, and then in the middle of those 2 cones, they've got the dB meter. 50 kilometers an hour, hit the first cone, and you need to go full throttle in whatever gear allows you to do a 50 meter stretch without having to upshift. So for me, at 50 k's an hour, that's probably 4th gear. Rolling, or 50 k's an hour, full throttle. So you are full throttle past the dB meter and then out the other side. Now for me, so that dB meter is also, I think, 2 meters from the edge of the road, or maybe something along those lines. It's a fair bit away from the edge of the road, so the limit is less. So for me, it's 81 dB. Now he said there is absolutely no way that car's going to pass that at the moment. The exhaust is one thing, the engine noise is another, and tyre noise is a big contributor as well. So for me, the exhaust stacks are going to get baffles in them. It's the only way to do it, or I might even put some internal round mufflers. The engine noise, I'm gonna have to do some sort of pretty hectic sound deadening in the engine bay. You know, bonnet sound deadening, inner guard sound deadening. See if I can even put like some butyl rubber or whatever, the adhesive stuff on the sump to try and shut up a bit of like engine clacky. Anyway, if you got any good suggestions, please let me know, because the engine noise, in my opinion, is louder than what the exhaust noise is. So if the exhaust noise stuffs it, the engine noise is definitely going to. So anyway, and the diesel smoke. So the test for that is you sit there in neutral and you need to give it, you go from 0 to 100% throttle and back again. So it's just a wha-bam. And the guide is that the puff of smoke that comes out has to dissipate to a point where you can't see it within 5 seconds. So if you put like a massive cloud of smoke, that was me, massive cloud of smoke, and it just hangs because it's so thick and heavy, you fail. He stopped counting at 10 seconds and he could still see the cloud of smoke drifting away. It's supposed to be 5. So, and it was a bit windy. So anyway, that's the end of the list. I know that was a lot of talking, but that's where I am. So as far as the smoke goes, I'm gonna have to detune the pump. I didn't actually ramp the pump up. It was the one that was on the engine when I got it. So it's set to whatever it was set to previously. I just set it back to 0 time, or straight up and down timing. So the pump's not advanced or retarded. It's obviously just been wound up at some point. So I'm gonna have to dial the pump back. The other option is I could look into putting a boost compensator. If anybody's put a boost compensator on one of the standard iron DB pumps, please let me know, because I would love to put a compensator on that pump. I think it would be a really worthwhile investment. If not, like I said, I'm just gonna have to back that fuel screw off, and the car will be a bit of a dog, but there's not much I can do. The funny thing is, when that car's under full load, and I can put up the dyno printout, when the car's under full load at 15 pound of boost, it's actually rolling at 19.5 to 1 air fuel ratios, which for a diesel is actually lean. You don't really start seeing soot on a diesel until you hit about that 17 to 1 ratio, and then it starts to become sort of fat, 17, 7.5, 18 to 1, you won't really see any soot. 19 to 1, you definitely won't see soot. So under full load, that pump's actually set pretty right. The trouble is not being boost compensated. When you smack the throttle, it gives you all the fuel with none of the boost, which leads to mass amounts of coal. So anyway, that's just something for me to work on. So if I crank that fuel back so it doesn't give me smoke, the thing will probably make about 5 pound of boost and be a dog to drive, but that's what we got to do. So all right, and that was about it. Like I said, he was good to deal with. Nothing was a hassle. I was there for over 2.5 hours going through stuff, and yeah, as far as the final price goes, can't give you that because we're not there yet. And yeah, if there's any questions on any of that, by all means leave a comment, and I will do my best to get back to it. And we're going to start working through this, because I still need this car on the bloody road. I'm just needs to get done. So yeah, this won't be a many months down the track. This is going to start happening. Now on that point, the next video, however, is going to be something different. I have had a company come on board, and they're going to help support me to do something that I have wanted to do for a very long time. It's been a little niggling thing in the back of my head that I've wanted to attempt. I want to try my hand at, and up until now I haven't had the means to do it. So yeah, and it'll definitely be an audience involved project, because never done it before, and there's a lot of people out there that have, and I haven't. So I'm gonna really lean on the viewers in the comment section to help me out. But that's next episode, so hopefully that won't be too far away, and I'll be able to divulge what's going on there. But yeah, if you want to know what that is, you're gonna have to subscribe, and you're gonna have to stay here to find out. So anyway, that's my one little sub plug for the video. Alrighty, well, that is enough. Someone keeps messaging me. I should probably find out who that is. Yeah, that's enough. Yeah, I don't know how to end the video except stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.